Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan. How are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm so good.
You know, we always talk about the temperature in your office. And today you're wearing the Turn 4 merch.
I am wearing the Turn 4 merch today.
So it must be a little chilly in the home office today.
It is. It's actually pretty warm, but I'm going to sweat it out today. I think I need it. So
it's all right. You know, we got a good show coming up here. As always, we are not insiders. We're just lifelong fans. We try to give you that fan perspective on IndyCar racing. Tonight, we're going to discuss the opening round of the 2022 IndyCar season, St. Pete Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. Tim, you noted this was a complete sellout, according to our friends at NBC.
That's what they said in the morning warm up when the cars were out there Sunday morning. So, yeah, they said it was a complete sellout. And then I saw a few other articles that said it was the biggest turnout in many years. So it looks like the sport is doing well from a popularity standpoint.
For sure. It is doing well from a popularity standpoint, for sure. I also think there's a lot of pent up demand, right? For people who have been in quarantine or trying to stay away. So I think that people were looking for a great opportunity to get out. And as always, the IndyCar race provides a terrific opportunity for those folks. So it is good to see people get out.
Yeah. And everybody knows it's still really cold in the Midwest. So if you can get a flight down to Florida and watch a race and hang out in 70 some degrees, why wouldn't you do it? So I think that's helpful as well.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching Chef Brian's posts on Twitter, right? He was showing all the pictures down there. So he left the Midwest to head down to St. Pete to take in the IndyCar race. So, and we look forward to talking to Chef Brian in May, but so I just want to get on to some race observations before we get on to our usual race review, team by team. The first thing I will tell you is it seemed to me this race strung out early. By the time the real first stops started happening around 12 laps in, and I'm just picking 13th place, not picking on anybody. It's just the midway point. They were already 25 and a half seconds behind the lead. And this is notable to me because this is a track lap of about 65 seconds. So this got strung out pretty quickly, and it could be my second point. The Reds seem to go off quite early on this. And this, we know, is a track that is not particularly difficult on tires. It's not something like Detroit. So those Reds did fall off early, and that could have been the reason why people were trying to adhere to a two-stop strategy, which we knew was the better strategy, but really had to nurse those red tires to get there. The third thing I'm going to note before we get into our teams is Hy-Vee is all in on the marketing, heavy on the ad buys. Mm-hmm. So, really last year, we talked a lot about how Carvana came in and they were a terrific new sponsor and they activated well, and they continue to activate well this year as well. And Hy-Vee all in. It's really great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, they were activating, their sponsorship. Also, obviously with Jack and telling people they didn't know Jack, and you could order food and I believe merchandise, being like regular stuff that you'd find in a Target, if you will, and have it delivered to your house from anywhere, right? So you didn't have to live in the Midwest where they're sort of located in order to get their merchandise, which was a really good activation on their part. And they use Jack in their advertising, which isn't used that often. Well, you mentioned Carvana. They did it with Jimmy Johnson last year and again in this year, but nobody else really does that too much. Not like back in the days in the 90s where you had the drivers in a lot of commercials, and even on the Kmart side when you had the Andretti's on there in the Kmart stores and all that. So a lot of activation was going on back then. So it's good to see.
Yep, I agree. So congratulations to Scoot McLaughlin for his first IndyCar win. He is the sixth driver to take his first IndyCar win, driving for Roger Penske. He is a 5-time Supercar champ, and I believe 3 of those championships came while driving for Roger Penske in that partnership in Australia. So he is no slouch, right? Mm-hmm. He did not have a great year last year. but he had no experience coming into Formula cars. So I would tell you that this is a tremendous result by him. Obviously, start the season strong, start the season with a win. And I think that gets a little bit of pressure off of him, where, he's certainly under pressure to perform. Neither one of us have Scoot McLaughlin in our season top 10. Is this a miss by us, Tim?
Or is this like a miss? No, it seems like a miss.
Yeah, it seems
I think the big thing when you talk about Team Penske and you talk about the Chevy engine, right? We need to talk about that, and I'm sure we will here. But drivability, they've both talked about it. They being Will and Scotty, both talked about it and how it's much better off the corners than what it used to be in 2021. So that's going to play a huge part in Team Penske and the other Chevrolet teams as they, go from circuit to circuit, and especially on road and street courses. So I was super excited for Scoot. It was great to see him up there. It was great to see Penske up there. Will was fast as well, but that whole team is looks like they got it together.
Yeah, they do. Will Power finishing third. I would tell you he's back, right? I text this to you throughout the weekend. Will's body language really looked good, which to me conveyed a sense of, my God, what word am I looking for here? Sense of confidence. Mm-hmm. And, with Will Power, there's no poker face there. That if he's miserable, he looks miserable. If he's happy, he looks happy. And he looked really good this weekend. So you knew that there was something there. And like you mentioned about the Chevy, right? Chevy getting their engine mapping and getting the drivability there, where I think that has been Honda's real ace in the hole over the last couple of seasons is their drivability. Mm-hmm. And if Chevy has that sorted out, man, this is going to be a great, very, very competitive season.
Yeah, I would say that along with fuel consumption, which they seem like they were on par with the Hondas.
Yeah.
So if you have both of those going for you, then you are in a really good position to have a great year.
Right. Newgarden, unfortunately, finishing 16th. I didn't rank Newgarden that high in my season-long picks. And it's not because I don't have confidence in him or whatever, but it's really, this race finish is just one, I understand. But I think it's just a reaffirmation of what very limited testing can do to somebody's effort when you're bringing in a new engineer. Mm-hmm. And somebody who hasn't recently been on a timing stand in IndyCar. So, if anybody has the depth of resources, it's Penske. So I don't expect this to be a season long problem, but they definitely started out in the hole. Joseph mentioned something, I believe it was after qualifying yesterday, where he didn't want to elaborate on it. And whatever that is, it is, right? To me, I feel like with the limited testing, there could be something there that team could have been doing, or splitting their strategy or splitting their testing, on-track testing opportunities. And, Joseph just happened to pull the short straw on that.
Yeah, I think he said something to the effect that something was going on in the background, and he didn't, like you said, he didn't want to elaborate on it. But, it's the first race of the year. I've got Newgarden finishing high in the standings, and I think Penske coming out as strong as they did with the other two, that they'll be there all season, in my opinion. And I think Newgarden's going to figure it out, and he's going to be up there as well. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with when you take qualifying and you sweep the front row, when you would have expected an Andretti car to be there because of their drivability, their damper program. They've always been really good on street courses. You would have thought they would have locked it out, and not Penske. And Penske was able to do that. They were good. They came off the truck good. And they're going to be good all season, in my opinion. And I think Newgarden's going to rebound for sure. He's not going to be hanging back in 16th, like you mentioned, for the season.
No, definitely uncharacteristic, but I think they'll get it turned around. So speaking of uncharacteristic, Chip Ganassi Racing had a rather unusual start to their weekend. I mean, they seem to be lost. Our friends at NBC kept stressing the idea that they were they were working on their street course setups during the off season. Certainly something did not translate between the simulator and the engineering data to when they were spinning their wheels. And I mean that in both ways. When they were spinning their wheels in St. Pete, I think a second place by Alex Palou is an amazing finish, given what this team looked like in both practices and in qualifying, but an amazing finish.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, absolutely. So second place, Alex Palou, to me, this is a good finish. And I know this sounds insane because it's the first race of the season, which is going to be a long season, but he came out of nowhere last year, which means to me, he has to prove that it wasn't a fluke. He needs to keep up that energy. He needs to move on. I mean, it's sad to say, but I believe his highs and lows will be accentuated until we really know what to expect out of Palou.
Well, I think his result in this race shows what he's going to do this season. You cannot start where he started back in 10th, move all the way up to second. That's an amazing run. It is a great run for, like you mentioned, how they came off the trailer, lost. First time they missed the top 6 in qualifying in a long, long time. I don't know what the record is, but to not have a Ganassi car up there was huge. And then he drives past everybody else and finishes second. He's the guy to beat, in my opinion, going through the rest of the series. If he continues to do that, he was easily going to repeat the championship, in my opinion.
It's possible. Absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely possible. So
because when you look at what his teammate did, he went back one position from where he qualified, that being Scott Dixon. And
he stayed right there.
Master. He's the master. So now you have like a new master at Chip Ganassi that is so good. I don't know. I'm wondering if the rest of the field has a shot. I'm wondering.
Like, that's a hot take, man. That's big.
That is big. I screwed up my picks.
That is big. Yeah, I have Palou third. You've got Palou fifth for the season, but Dixon, like you mentioned, kind of a surprise at this, and this kind of, underscores what I was just saying about Palou, right? Everybody is going to look at it and set an expectation based on how we did last year, and looking for this fall off. And like you said, there may not be a fall off.
I was looking for it. I was expecting it.
Right.
It didn't happen in race 1.
Right. But Dixon's missing something, right? There's just something there. They'll get it sorted out. If Dixon doesn't have a win this season, it'd be a stunner to me. But yeah, just kind of surprising. 9th place, Marcus Ericsson. I think this was a good finish. I think he had the potential to finish even better than this had it not been for the penalty for the unsafe release. He was moved to the back of the field on lap 33. Hard to drive up, right? From 26th to, back up to 9th. I don't know what that would have looked like if they would have just been able to maintain their own strategy.
That is true. Yeah. Those 3 cars looked good, especially Alex Palou, right? But even Scott, not having a great weekend, he still hung in there and got his 8th place. Marcus Ericsson, you mentioned 9th. I think he would have leapfrogged Scott if he didn't have that penalty. Too, yeah. So he would have been somewhere in the top 5, I would imagine. So they got their stuff together for the race, and it was good to see.
Jimmie Johnson, it's one race. It's the first race of the season. I don't mean this to be harsh. I have all the respect in the world for Jimmie Johnson for doing this. He's a champion in NASCAR. He's a champion in life, right? He seems to be a really good person. I don't know what's going on here. I counted 3 spins this weekend, 2 in practice, 1 in one in warm up. NBC is trying just like they did last year, and they're stressing that, that it's an improved effort and everything else. I don't see it. And here's what I'm gauging it against. He's a driver at Chip Ganassi Racing. The best equipment, the best engineering, the best support you can get in the paddock, period. And this is just not coming around.
I don't disagree with you. You said it so well. I don't know if I can add anything to JJ's run over at St. Pete. Yeah. I saw the spins you saw. I was surprised by a lot of them, but
they seem to be dialing in a lot of rear brake bias.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, I think that's either they're trying to help them and that's not helping them, or somebody is unwilling to say, okay, you've got to look at what your teammates are doing and how they're doing it, and you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. And I saw a couple of those spins coming out of a corner too. So he's getting on the gas and it just kind of kicked out on
fast
him.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as he has Carvana backing him, it's a great story. I'm hopeful to see a lot more on the ovals from him, which I'm sure we will.
Yeah. Me too.
I just think, a tight street course, something in the NASCAR discipline you don't do at all, right?
No.
Walls right next to you. It's difficult. And
he did it last year. He did it, and it's
he did it, and they said
anymore.
he was a second faster in qualifying than what he was last year. But when you look at the pole time for the race as well, it was just about a second faster as well. So all the cars were a little quicker across the board. So I don't know if the gap was really closed between him and the other racers.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. No. Andretti, I think that this is a preview of what's going to happen this season. I think it's going to be Herta and Grosjean will be battling for team leader status. Not that team leader status means as much in IndyCar as it does in Formula One, but still, Herta finishing fourth. He was my pick for the win today. Not bad. That's exactly what he needs, because I've noted it a few times. It's either feast or famine with this team. He wins, blows everybody's doors off, or he's a non-factor, right? Mm-hmm. Take every point available to you. This is the Scott Dixon approach to all those championships. Take every point available. Fourth place was available. They either short-filled him on purpose or by mistake, and I think that that's probably what the downstream effect was on his plan and where his finish settled him out in fourth place.
Yeah, because he was backing up, right? They had to save a lot of fuel. They pitted right after VK, which VK was on a 3-stop race. And so he said, why are we pitting so early? And they indicated that they short filled him and didn't get all the fuel in the first stop.
Right.
So he had to manage that. And then as he was managing that, he gave up third place, and then also fell into the clutches of the people behind him, which I thought he was going to get past, but he did not.
Is the clutches of the teammate, right? Romain Grosjean. So Grosjean comes in, very, very celebrated. This is a big, big start for him, moving into the big team and taking over that DHL Honda. He was hip checked a few times this weekend, right? It was kind of funny to see how everybody was racing him very strongly. This is not an intro, right? He was there last year. I think, but he comes in with such notoriety and such fanfare. I think maybe some of those drivers are just trying to humble him a little bit. Mm-hmm. The incident with Sato in practice, I don't think was necessarily his fault. I'm going to put that on the team, and here's why. They knew he was coming in on a flyer. They also should have known that all those guys were backing up at the end of that straightaway. Why they didn't warn him, or why they didn't tell him ahead of time, I don't know. Why he didn't see it, from the camera.
That's the bigger angle, question. Why didn't he see it? Yeah.
From the camera angle, it looked like he had a lot of sun in his face. Maybe, like Townsend Bell said, maybe he looked down to make an adjustment on the wheel. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But I'm still going to put a little bit more of that on the team than I am going to put that on Romain. But, obviously not great.
Yeah. And I don't know where the spotters are to say, hey, they're slowing up in front of you. They're checking up. You're on a hot lap. You need to, back out a bit. But I would think you'd be able to see that coming. But if you are making adjustments to the car as you're going around, then, that could be, the reason for, looking up and going, oh no, there's Sato right in front of me, and you pour the binders on, but you don't have enough time to stop, which is unfortunate for Sato and his team to have to go through repairing that vehicle. But, he was, I'm talking about Grosjean, he was bumping and banging a lot. So I don't know if they were side checking him or he's side checking others. He was trying to pass people on the outlap. It was a really interesting round for him, and he came through with the 5th place finish, which was, really good. It's right where he started, right? So he started and finished in the same spot. I was expecting him to battle for the win and the lead a little bit more, but that's solid, very solid from both of those guys when you look at Grosjean and Herta, and solid when it comes to looking at the championship as a whole. So good job by them.
Kind of surprising, Rossi finishing 20th. Not ideal to somebody who I think really needs a very strong start to the season. Again, this is only one race, but optics, right? I think kind of a surprise for Alexander to finish in 20th place. He started 13th. Strategy just didn't seem to work out for him. Strategy.
Just terrible. That's terrible result.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's really a
you expect so much more from,
you
expect so much more from Rossi than that. So hopefully they figure it out.
Did you realize that Brian Barnhart was his strategist? And did you realize that Brian Barnhart was Hinch, friend of the show, Hinch's strategist last year?
I knew he was around the paddock. I knew he was calling shots. I didn't know he was part of Rossi this year. No, I didn't know that.
Draw your own conclusions. But that's what I'm just going to say there. Wow. 22nd place, Devlin DiFrancesco, rookie, little less than I expected. But, obviously too soon to pass real judgment there. That's Tim's favorite livery in the paddock.
It is. The car looks great. I'd like to see it up front a little further than that, but
Ed Carpenter Racing, 6th place, Renus VK. NBC talked a lot about Ed Carpenter Racing in the off season, working a lot on these types of setups. I think that work and the work that Chevy has done paid off, because Renus was in the conversation all day.
He was good.
He was good. And he is good. As you know, he is one of my favorites. I do not have him in my top 10 for the season. I have him as an honorable mention, but I think that's a miss. Just like McLaughlin. I think that's going to be a miss for this season. I think he's going to be a player.
Yeah, I think he could be a player. I just worry that, everything in the team needs to gel, and they need to continue on the success they had at Indy last year when he finished really well, right? He won it.
He won it.
Yeah, he won it. Yeah. So they just need to build upon what they had there. There was some talk about when he broke his collarbone and did that impact the end of last season. That looks like it's all healed based on his results that he just had. And to qualify 4th and be in the Fast Six, that was a surprise on a street course for Ed Carpenter Racing and VK to be there. But they did it. And they're the top finishing 3-stop pit. Or no, they didn't do their 3rd stop, right? They only did the 2.
No.
Yep. Yeah. They did a huge fuel save at the end, which lost them a couple positions. But man, they were good.
Yeah. They might have stayed on that first set of red tires a little too long because he was struggling to hang on, but they needed to get to a number. And, it was the best they could possibly do. But those reds really went off for him. Daly never really got going, right? He started 20th, finished 21st. He did have the fastest lap of the race, as I know you're going to pull that one. You love that. Otherwise, seemed to struggle. And here's the thing. So I look back at last year too. This track just might not be suited to Connor Daly's strengths, right? He finished 16th last year, starting 19th.
Yeah, he's got to be in the same equipment as VK.
Got to be.
I would imagine. I don't know what the differences would be. So you'd expect or anticipate him to be a little quicker there. But to your point, maybe that track does not suit his skills. I can't wait to see him all season long in the same seat on the same team. I think he'll do well.
I'm not as optimistic about that as you are.
Yeah, you're not?
No, for Connor.
Yeah, it's good for him. I think he'll do well. Just a poor outing, in my opinion, on coming in 21st here. But
here's a team that I'm optimistic on that you're not, and that's Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. I think this team had to get off to a fast start. 7th place by Graham Rahal, started 11th. Is that a fast start?
No.
Better.
You need a top 5. I would expect a top 5 out of somebody on that team. I'm not saying it has to be Graham, but somebody on that team.
Right. I'd call it an improvement, but I would tell you that not what I think they expected, certainly. Lundgaard, who really seemed to struggle early in the weekend, but had a really smart race, kept his nose clean, finishing 11th. Jack, my guy, Jack. Jack never shook off that practice crash, and it was a big crash, right?
It was a big hit.
He finished 13th. Starting from 23rd is a tremendous effort. But here's a guy, you're in a good team, you're in good equipment, you've got a contract in hand. Relax. Let it come to you. It'll happen. Let it come to you.
Yeah, you said he didn't shake off the accident that he had in practice.
He was very conservative in qualifying. He looked very conservative in qualifying.
Yeah. Who did shake it off? Their accident. Your second place finisher, Palou did.
Yeah.
He shook it off. He had the same incident that Harvey had.
But he's a race winner. He's a past champion, right? I think when you've got that behind you.
Yeah. And you're on the same team that you were last year, right?
Yep.
Harvey moved. So maybe there's some, you're a little gun shy when it comes to qualifying, and you can kind of hold back because you want to wreck another car. I get it.
Yeah.
I do want to note though, Lundgaard, the top finishing rookie in the race.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't he also my pick for rookie of the year honors? Oh, okay.
Look at that.
All right. Just wanted to make sure you knew that and the listeners knew that. That's all.
Awesome. 10th place, Takuma Sato, as fiery as ever. At Coin,
I know.
second trip to Coin, the ageless Takuma Sato took a hard-fought 10th place. David Malukas, my rookie pick, unfortunate crash. Seemed to either get caught out in the marbles or just came in too hot in that chicane area. Took out two of the walls. I more to come from that rookie. He's just simply too good, and I think that the team is efficient.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Sato, what a run. 22nd to 10th.
Yeah, I know. Amazing.
That is good.
We're gonna get to that.
Clean.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that.
All right.
Arrow McLaren underperformed expectations. Period. Best looking cars in the field, but not intended to be running around mid-pack. 12th place by Pato O'Ward, 17th place by Felix Rosenquist, who also needs a fast start to this season.
Yeah, just a miss on the whole team's part.
Shank, I think, Pagenaud came out this weekend pretty strong, but it just didn't translate into, race results. 14th place by Elio Castroneves and 15th place by Simon Pagenaud. I think strategy could be the Achilles here for this team. I think that's part of what Jack's alluded to when Jack talked about moving over to Rahal. That's not a slam. It just is what it is. They're still a new team. Yes, they won the Indy 500 last year. They're still, a new team in terms of full-time efforts in IndyCar racing. And there's a lot of really good teams ahead of them. So, I think they'll get it squared away. And I think the two drivers that they have right now in their seats are going to help them get a lot of that squared away.
Yeah. And it's interesting because both of them had a 3-stop strategy, which Simon qualified in 6th position. So he's in the fast 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they still went with the 3-stop strategy, which is puzzling to me. I think you'd want to have one car on a different strategy. So you'd put Pagenaud, who's further up, on a 2-stopper. And I think he'd finish way up from where he did. So he lost a ton of spots while Elio moved up several spots from his starting position.
Yeah, that underscores the point, right? Strategy is this team's Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
3-stop was never going to be the way to go in this thing. AJ Foyt Racing. It's early.
It is early.
18th place by Kyle Kirkwood. He is going to be a star, no question. Tatiana Calderon, I think she's going to be a star too. I think what she showed this weekend was she ain't going to take anything from anybody. Yep. She ain't going to let you pass her easy either, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have to earn it. Dalton Collette, Electrical Gremlins, just kind of took his day out, but that team, we'll see how it goes. Bourdais in the coaching, mentoring kind of role this weekend on the pit box. What'd you think?
He lives in St. Pete. I think he wanted to be at the track. AJ
so you don't think we'll see him in Barber?
No, I don't think so. They said he was not a paid, driver strategy guy or anything on the team. He was in town, and they said he started, I'm sure you heard this, he started behind the pit box, just kind of hanging out, and then moved into the pit box and had a computer and a headset like mine, and was on the radio, I think, by the time the race hit. So I would say it'd be great to have him around. I don't know how much you're going to see of him. I know he's got his other disciplines that he'll be driving in. So maybe if his calendar opens up and he's able to do it, maybe, but I don't think it was designed that way.
Right.
And you, Juncos, can we talk about Juncos? You
absolutely
you missed them.
No, I didn't get to them yet.
Oh, interesting.
I have the revised notes in front of me.
You must have shuffled it.
I did. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Juncos? Go ahead. Kalamila.
Well, according to you, I think it's going to be a long season for them, right? It's a single car team.
Yes, it is.
They're going to have to figure it out. It's good that they're out there. It looks like they're going to need a technical alliance with another team in order to really get that program going. But
I totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I know. Isn't that crazy? But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad they're out there. We'll see what the season brings. They'll run in the top 10 a couple times this year. They will.
Nah.
Yeah, they will.
So that is the field. Again, congratulations, Scott McLaughlin. Great way to start the season. Great first win for the captain, and expect more certainly coming out that way. So you asked me who was the most impressive drives, and I'm going to give you two before we get to yours. So because mine's all fully exposed, I had to write mine out.
You did write yours out. I do see him. Yep.
So first, I'll tell you, Alex Palou. Right. As we mentioned, Ganassi Team was out to lunch right off that truck. Second place here is huge after starting 10th in a car that just looked lost all weekend. So I think that's a big deal. My second drive of the race, Takuma Sato. He still got it, man. I don't know what Takuma Sato translates to in Japanese, but it wouldn't surprise me if it means go big or go home. Right. Started 22nd, finished 10th. By the way, this was a toss-up for me because I could have easily gone to Jack Harvey, who started 22nd and finished 10th. But Takuma had an amazing drive.
Very good. So when I asked you that question, it was over text message, right? Yeah. I was sitting in the hot tub and I was thinking,
Tim lives a very good life, ladies and gentlemen.
And I was thinking about other the drives that the other drivers, like all the drivers did. Obviously, Scoot had an amazing drive. He was by far the best, but it prompted me to go, what are the other two drivers that did really well? And Dan, when I sent you that text, I had the same two drivers that you listed. The exact same. So that's awesome. Have nothing to add except we were thinking down the same path on this one, which is crazy. And your points are perfect. And it's exactly what I was thinking. Palou stands himself up, shows I'm the champion. We didn't have a great car coming off the truck, but I drove through the field from a 10th to a second place finish. Amazing.
Yep.
I think I said earlier in the show, I said, he's a force to be reckoned with all season long. And he's the guy to beat, period, based on his drive just in St. Pete. And then Sato, amazing. Like, kept it clean after getting rear-ended by Grosjean, kept it clean. That was obviously in practice, and drove from 22nd to 10th. That's really good. They did a 2-stop strategy. They stuck with it and came out smelling like roses. Yep.
Good job. Good job by everybody. Real quick, fantasy, Jason, our team Yuka here is our oh, wait a minute. Hold on. My notes are backwards. So Mark, our YouTube super fan, is leading our fantasy league with 118 points. Jason, Team Yuka, second place, 114.25 points. And Chili Pepper, third place with 98 points.
And that would be you. That would
be you,
it
Dan. Is.
You are Chili Pepper.
Yes, I am.
Good job by the three of you.
I know. Look at that.
Fourth, though. There's a guy in fourth, right?
Don't know. Doesn't matter.
I think it's turn 4 Tim is in fourth.
Is it turn 4 Tim?
I think turn 4 Tim Auto Sport or something. I don't know what I put in there. Yeah,
hey, moving on, real
there's
quick.
There's always the next race. It's just the first race of the
season. Is. Oh, totally. Yeah. Moving on. So real quick, listener writes, Twitter follower Evan Dawson wrote into voice his disagreement with your, Timothy, your Indy 500 pole prediction of Marco Andretti and my Indy 500 winner of Graham Rahal. Thanks to Evan for listening and following. From my perspective, we'll wait and see, but otherwise I totally agree. Tim's pick is absolutely incorrect.
And I think Evan disagreed with my second part of the statement of Marco Andretti, that he would run up front, which he's not going to run up.
No.
Yeah, I know. That was the part. I think the pole's okay. That he can still win the pole. I just think running up front. I think Evan mentioned that he'd be with the Foyt cars or something. I don't remember what he said exactly, but I still like my pick for the pole, and I definitely know your winner's wrong.
News and notes: IndyCar fourth car at Penske still possible, according to Racer Magazine. I'm thankful that, of course, they didn't use my favorite obligatory phrase, right? If sponsorship can be found, they'll run a fourth team. So I'm glad they didn't say that. I'm interested to hear, though, Tim, your thoughts on who they mentioned in that article. Two drivers, one being one Alexander Rossi, and the second one being Rinus VeeKay. Either one of those two, you think enough to have the captain bring a fourth IndyCar back to the field?
Yeah, and you're talking next season, right?
Next season.
They weren't looking to do it this season.
Right.
I think what they did when they downsized was the right move, and I think it showed by the results they had in the race, of course. If I had to choose one of those, I think VeeKay's the guy that would potentially go there. But I also think that Kyle Kirkwood potentially, and I know it's going to a Chevy, right? But I think he would be a guy to go there because he's going to be a star.
I think so too. I think if Roger Penske didn't do that this year, I don't think he's going to. Kirkwood's going to go back to Andretti the minute that there's an opening there.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey,
so you just mentioned, so that's the same choice the other driver that's listed here made, right? Alexander Rossi. He had the choice to go to Penske or to.
Yeah, but we're not saying that Kirkwood had a choice to go to Penske, right? We're just saying that Roger had a choice to put Kirkwood in a car, not the other way around.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you only get one chance to turn down the captain.
Well, I thought more and more about that after we had our exchange on that. And I think I wouldn't call it turning down the captain. I would call it going with Honda for Rossi. And that's,
I'll give you that.
That's what I think that's what the driver was, period. I don't think it was Penske versus Andretti. It was, I'm in with Honda. I've been with Honda. Yeah, I've got a great package with them. So why wouldn't I go with a Honda team?
And that's why I say if he moves, he's going to Ganassi.
I know. And so do others think that, but
instead of repping Auto Nation, it'll be Carvana.
Yeah, potentially, I guess. We'll see.
Timmy, you want to talk to us?
That's a really hot take, Dan.
It is a hot. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Jimmy Johnson and all the Jimmy Johnson listeners out there. Hey, you want to tell us about the results from the IndyCar Global Fan Survey?
Yeah, so the results from the 2022 Global Fan Survey were released this past week, and it was the largest ever IndyCar fan survey with over 50,000. Yes, 50,000 completed surveys, which is a lot, from 147 countries. That's mind-blowing a little bit.
It is, yeah.
147 countries. So I thought it'd be good and prudent if we talked a little bit about some of the highlights, and these are highlights that I pulled. I'm sure you have other ones, Dan. But did you know, and I didn't know this was the third time they've done this survey. I guess they did it the last 2 years. I didn't see it.
News to me.
All right. So this one got out. So let's dive in on a few things. I think importantly, the top 5 markets by country. And this is the top 5 markets that responded. And I'm a little surprised by some of this. So you have the USA, of course, you'd expect the US, it's a US based series. France, second, UK, Japan, and then Canada. I'm a little surprised to see France as the number 2 country with responses. Seems like Canada or even Mexico would be in that spot. Canada was at number 5. Where's Mexico? We talk about always having a race in Mexico. We didn't get a lot of respondents.
Yeah, and there's a Mexican driver in the series, a successful Mexican driver in the series,
very
too.
successful in Pato.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into it, but I'll just stop you. So my biggest takeaway is that, right? Because I guess when I look at it, I would have expected Canada and Mexico to be second or third, and those two could have been interchangeable in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But also a couple of that's kind of scratched my head: Australia, New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
Dixon has been here for a long time, hugely successful. Power's been here for a long time, hugely successful, and Scott McLaughlin came over with a lot of fanfare. It's now showing some success, but I don't know what happened to those two and what that following looks like there. But the other thing too, with the way that the surveys worked out, very, UK and France and Japan, let me ask you this, is this time for IndyCar to look again at going international?
I would think you have to take a hard look at it based on the results of the survey. And part of the results of the survey was, when's the last time you attended a race? Yep. And a lot of them that have not, because there's not a race within their area in order for them to attend. So, I think you got to look at those results and really hone in and go, okay, where should we, set up if we're going to go international? And I know it's a huge logistical nightmare. I think it made sense when FedEx was part of the series. You had the airplanes, you had the infrastructure to get the vehicles where they needed to go. You don't have that same relationship now. You got DHL, but I don't think they're stepping up to do any of that. I think they're backing out more on their sponsorship rather than activating more. So that becomes the issue, I believe, in getting across the pond, if you will.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting that was your biggest one. So we're going to go through a few more. Over 80% of the respondents viewed the series as competitive and believed it was the right balance of sport and entertainment. The top attributes include competitiveness, which I think we saw this weekend, right?
Absolutely.
Exciting. There was some exciting factors at the end of the race. Entertaining. I'm always entertained. Growing, dangerous, and fun. So the dangerous aspect still fits in there, and respondents were 80% happy with what it looked like, the right balance of sport as well as excitement.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
And I thought this was interesting. I threw this one in here when they talked about IndyCar's fans are not overtly tribal in their support. So what does that really mean? Nearly 70% of fans follow a number of teams and drivers or are impartial to all. They just like to be entertained, is what I'm saying. So they're not following the series just for one team or one driver. They like multiple. So that was good to see. So that means it's healthy, right? You're not, once that driver goes on, you don't lose interest. You're interested in the series as a whole. And last, but
that actually is my second big takeaway, because I think I know I talk a lot about, Team Penske and I like Will Power, but I think by and large, I'm a fan. So there's multiple drivers that I root for up and down the grid, and they're not necessarily aligned Honda or Chevy or to a particular team, as you know, right? Who I root for: Rinus VeeKay, Will Power, Jack Harvey, Graham Rahal. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys, right? Those are the guys that you normally hear me talking about on a very regular. Roman Grosjean. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that you normally hear me talking about it, and they're not aligned. They're not on the same team. They're not even the same engine manufacturer. So I think I fall right into that category. It's certainly how I answered that question, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, lastly, but very importantly, is sponsorship, right? We talked about the fans and what they want, but you cannot have a series if you don't have sponsorship.
Yeah.
So survey results indicated that IndyCar fans have a strong understanding that sponsorship enhances the sport, almost an 84% net approval on that. However, and I say only, and I use only loosely, but only 50% of the fans, IndyCar fans, are more likely to consider products and services from companies sponsoring the series. I thought that would be a little bit higher.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I would think that would be higher. We all know NASCAR, right? Their following is really big. The fans really go behind the product. So I thought we'd be a little bit higher than what we were. And then I thought this other thing was really good too as well. One quick note on the brands in the top 5 for unprompted awareness globally are: first, DHL; second, Firestone. Do you want to do the tagline?
Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Very good. On cue. I like that. Honda, NTT, and Verizon.
And Verizon does no activation.
None at all, right?
Nope.
So what I think is very interesting, and the question I have is, do you think Chevy and GM are scratching their heads on why they're not mentioned?
Have to be.
Totally.
Yeah. I hope that's not bad, right? Like downstream bad, but I'm stunned at that at least it's motorsports, right? I think two of your unprompted answers should really be Chevy and Honda and then whoever else. Because you would believe that if you're even a casual motorsports fan, you understand that. Yeah. And those are not two foreign entities or two something that you only hear on a peripheral basis, right? We talked about Toyota coming into the series with Gazoo or whatever they call it, right? That's going to take a while to see in the marketplace. But Honda and Chevy,
yeah,
they
should be top of mind. So yeah. I'm sure, like I said, they're scratching their head. They're going to figure it out. They put a ton of activation into the Indy 500. That's where they really put their buck into the sport. The GM folks do, right? When you've got the pace car, you've got, the sponsorship around the Indy 500. They do a ton there with vehicles and everything else. I guess they just got to do, in my opinion, they got to do a better job at all the other races throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. That should be a wake up call for Chevy and General Motors and determine what it is that they're doing and what they're putting out there, if it makes any sense. Honda, has historically done ads, around IndyCar and sort of work, Hinchcliffe was the spokesperson in a couple of those older ads and things like that. So maybe that's what the type of activation that Chevy needs. Chevy activates well. I'm thrilled to see them there. We're both out of Detroit, so I mean, it does mean something to us, right? It's kind of the hometown deal, but I would agree with you. I was stunned at that.
Yeah. So that sort of wraps up the survey. Those are the 4 points that I wanted to mention in today's show. So
yeah, good stuff.
Yep.
Quickly moving through the balance of the notes. Did you watch NASCAR yesterday, the California race?
I watched the last 35, 40 laps, whatever it was. I was coming out of the hot tub. So it was out of the hot tub time, and then came in and watched a little bit of the, and I was wondering if it was still going to be on. So yes, I saw the
right. So I was curious. I know we had some tire issues in California during this race, but I think they expected that, right? With that new tire, it's a little lower profile.
That's California,
all I saw. Yeah, is always very hard on tires. Yeah.
It seemed like they were blowing out quite a bit, and it was like the left rear on some, potentially the right rear on others.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if they do California twice anymore. I'm so out of the loop on that, and I apologize to the listeners, but at some point they'll get it figured out, right? I mean, Goodyear will definitely get that thing figured out with the new cars and everything else. So they got something to work with there. Hey, we finally got to see all of the new Formula One cars on track in not necessarily season starting trim, but probably pretty close. I learned a new word after preseason testing in Formula One last week. Do you know what that word is, Timmy?
I don't. What is it?
Porpoising. Yeah.
Explain it. What is porpoising?
Apparently, as F1 has attempted to move the bulk of the downforce generation to the underside of the car, this is one of the potential side effects. We can find it and we'll put it on our Twitter, but it basically is bouncing, right? The car is bouncing as it's going down the straightaways, where it's losing its underside generated downforce, and it's causing the car to move. So everybody said that they didn't see it in the wind tunnel, or they didn't see it in their CFD. Again, like I said, Ferrari has a pretty dramatic video of that out there, where you can really see what that looks like. They're going to have to get that thing figured out, because it looked violent. And if it's in, where they were testing in Barcelona, that's not exactly one of the bumpier tracks that they go to. So I was kind of surprised to see that. It could be bigger damage, but these teams are very well qualified. They have massive budgets and massive R&D. even with the budget cap, right? But they're going to move on, and they'll have another test session here in a few weeks in, I believe, Bahrain. So we'll see what it looks like there.
So you asked me, I want to ask you, did you watch any of the California race?
I did not.
You did not?
Nope.
Because you mentioned porpoising, and those cars going down the backstretch at Fontana there.
Yeah.
They were porpoising. They
really?
were yes, they were bouncing all over the place. So maybe the new aero on the NASCAR vehicles as well is underneath, and it's causing some of the same issues. I don't know.
It could be. You know, we saw a couple of cars, unfortunately, get upside down at Daytona. And I was surprised to see a very flat bottom on those cars, where in years past, that's not been the case.
You're right.
And maybe that is also helping those cars to generate a little bit more of their downforce from the underside, the under tray. And that could be leading to that as well. That could be a similar phenomenon with that. Obviously, NASCAR doesn't run as low as a Formula One car or as stiff as a Formula One car, but it could be leading up to some of that too. So yeah, good call, good catch on that. I didn't see any of it. And I apologize. But you know what I was doing? You know why I didn't see any of it? Because we're a full service motorsports podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Where were you, Dan?
I was at Monster Jam.
Monster Jam?
Sunday, Ford Field in Detroit. Monster Jam.
Downtown Detroit at Ford Field, watching the monster trucks.
Yeah. After a 2-year wait, we've had these tickets for 2 years. Wow. My wife, my daughters, my nieces, we all went down. We had a great time. The young nieces, they particularly enjoyed it quite a bit. Max D for Maximum Destruction took the win. Gravedigger, the legend, of course, seemed to suffer some mechanical issues. Never really was a factor in that. They actually had a number of mechanical issues on these trucks today, and it could just be a situation that we were at day 2, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Honorable mention to Blue Thunder. Not that our people have already turned this podcast off. Honorable mention to Blue Thunder. I think you and I probably would have referred to this Ford truck as Bigfoot when you and I were kids, but he left it all out there in the freestyle portion. So that was exciting to see that truck all come apart.
So there's no Bigfoot anymore?
No more Bigfoot. No, I did not in this particular round. So I don't know if Bigfoot's still out there. But
how is the two things, fumes and the noise level?
Noise is unreal, but not intolerable. I mean, there was a number of folks out there with headphones like yours or just regular earplugs or whatever, but we didn't have anything. It was fine. Fumes, nothing. I didn't notice anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd seen something on social media that said, I think I lost some hearing. I knew another couple that went down to the Monster Jam, and she mentioned that she may have lost hearing because it was so loud. So I don't know where their seats were, but
we had great seats. We had terrific seats. So
awesome.
Hey, real quick note on scheduling here. Our next pod will be scheduled for March 7th, where we'll preview Texas and whatever news happens after that, because that would mean Texas is the 20th. So we'll have another podcast after that to talk about the Texas race. So
I took notes, so I know when to show up.
There you go. Good job. Just show up. Just show up. So, hey, as always, we appreciate you listening. And this wraps up this episode of the Turn 4 podcast. We'll continue to bring you content, as I mentioned, and we're working on a new guest. I know on the last pod I said we were done with guests for the seasons, but no, we're going to have Chef Brian's going to join us in May to talk about his matrix that he put together to discuss who is the top Indy 500 driver in history. I think that's going to be pretty exciting. So give me a quick sneak peek there. If you do like the show and you listen on Apple Podcasts, please sure to leave us a review, engage with us on Twitter, our website, or our YouTube channel. All links are in the show notes. So thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.